Hello everybody, my name is Ronja Engarde, and welcome back for more Pokemon Platinum. In the last part, we got all the way to Canalave City, and, well, took care of a rival, and also pretty much did the entirety of Iron Island. Well, not kind of, we actually did the entirety of Iron Island. Don't know what I'm talking about. And in this part, hopefully we're going to be able to take care of this Steel Gym, and also, you know, do some other fun stuff around the world. Who knows? Depends on how much time we take, you know, defeating all of these Steelix users. Well, actually, that is one thing that I liked that they did from Diamond and Pearl to Platinum. I didn't really like that they, well, I like the the theming they did with Diamond and Pearl, but I actually overall liked the changes to the gyms from Diamond and Pearl to Platinum, since, you know, the regular trainers were definitely lacking. So now, you know, instead of just having, you know, Steelixes throughout the entire gym, and, you know, I think there was one trainer that had, you know, an Azumarill, and then another one that had something else really weird. But now they actually do all have steel types, and, you know, don't just have Steelix. They have, you know, as we can see here, Manamites and the Caesar and Bronzor, and, you know, lots of different stuff, you know. Actually, one thing that I talked about in the last part that I kind of wanted to talk a little bit more about was that I did use to tinker a little bit with ROM hacks, actually, and I definitely don't think I'm ever gonna make like a full like ROM hack in the way that, for example, I don't know, Pokemon Glaze or Pokemon Flora Sky, where, you know, they make it like an entirely new game, pretty much. Well, I don't think I could or would want to ever do that, simply because of how much time and actual skills it would take to do that. But I would actually love to make like an updated version of like Pokemon Emerald or something like that. Like, not really change it so much as, like, well, I mean, of course change it, but not like totally making it into a new thing entirely, but like, it's still gonna be Hoenn, it's still gonna be like the general story, but, you know, the areas change a little bit, like, especially like changing the routes and changing the trainer rosters and such, you know. Making it Hoenn, but making it a different experience of Hoenn. And I know especially that I had the idea of making the, well, not idea, but there are some of the tile sets that actually go unused in the vanilla Emerald game. Like, for example, there's, okay, not in use, but there are like certain tile sets that you can use that I feel like wasn't used to their full potential. Like, for example, I straight up made like an actual like iceberg, I remember, and, you know, well, not an yeah, I suppose iceberg is the correct word, because it was like a huge floating ice block in the ocean, and made, because I changed where all the Reggies were, so that, you know, Regice's new location was, like, it was removed from Route 205, because it really doesn't make much sense. Like, why is it there? Like, I don't know, I suppose you could make some kind of argument for why that is. Okay, there's nothing here, I just wanted to check. But, like, making it, like, rest at the center of an iceberg, I felt like was, you know, kind of fun. Like, it was like a big, like, flavor move. I don't quite remember. Ooh, yeah, I think I actually relocated, because I pretty much changed the entire cycling road. Like, I turned the cycling road from, like, well, the entire route I changed into like a desert pretty much. And I don't remember what I was gonna do with the actual desert. You know, in Route, I believe it's 113, no, Route 111. Yeah, Route 111. Don't know what I had planned for that. But I know that I changed Route to 110 into a desert. And then I made that the new location for Reggie Rock. You had to surf out into the ocean, and there was an island there. You know, and I made it so, because that was the thing that I felt like wasn't really used too much, was the weather. Because you can add pretty much like any kind of weather condition. Like you add like the sandstorm effect, the sunny effect, the rain. Well, the rain was used in certain routes, and you know, the sandstorm was used in Route 111. But I feel like they could have done more with it. And that is pretty much exactly what I did. I'm pretty sure I had one area that was sunny as well. Like, the sun was out 24/7, and I believe I had like a lot of Pokemon with like chlorophyll there, and generally like very speedy Pokemon. Because that was one thing that if I ever go back to it, which who knows, I might. If I ever do go back to it, I'm definitely gonna tune the trolliness of it a little bit down, because I straight up, you know, made the first route, the route you have to do to get to May. I made that complete hell. Like the random encounters would turn up to like where almost every single step was a new random encounter, and you know, the Pokemon you encounter were like Zubat with Confuse Ray, and Paris with Spore, and Wild Wobbuffets, and like, I don't even know why I did it with like, in general, but like, why the first route? Well, it wasn't the literal first route, it wasn't like Route 101, but it was Route 103, I believe it is. Like, I have no idea, so I definitely would have, you know, because I have no intention and want to make like a Kaizo ROM hack, because I don't really see the appeal too much. Like, well, I suppose I do, because like, oh, you want to show people that you were like super good at playing Pokemon, and you could even be like a Kaizo game. But like, I would rather make it like, I would like to make it a tough experience, like tougher than, you know, the vanilla Pokemon games, but still have it be like fair. So, I mean, that is a little challenging to find that balance, but I would definitely love to attempt it. And, you know, give all the trainers, like that's what I want to do. I want to give the player a lot of tools to work with. I'm very much on board with like making every Pokemon usable. Like, not making every Pokemon broken, but like having like boosting all the base stats so that you can actually use every Pokemon in game. Whereas, you know, there are certain Pokemon that, you know, they're just almost impossible to use. Like, you have for example, I don't know, gosh, I had an Ledian, freaking Ledian, who is just in the vanilla game. It's just awful. It's terrible. And like, there's not much you can do to make it even possible to use it. It's just that bad. But I definitely tried my best to, well, actually, I don't know if I did too much with Ledian, but I did, for example, with Linoon. I made it into a normal ground type. I think I did give it huge power, though, so, oops. I don't think I would do that now. I think I would give it, like, I don't know, 100 base attack, because that is like a good, like, 100 or 95, like something that is not super duper useful, but it's like good for a Pokemon that you can get at the first route and evolve at level 20, you know? Don't know why I saved, since this is a Nuzlocke, but let's do it. And yeah, I gave it like Mud Shot when it evolved. I gave it like extreme speed and the ability to learn Dig and Earthquake and all that, like, because I'm just a fan of making things like fun. Like, I don't know, that sounds super generic. I just want to make my game fun, you know, as opposed to the people that trying to make their games not fun. But you know, I just like adding things that, you know, are interesting, like things that would make a person reading through the changelog go like, ooh, that's fun, that's interesting. Like, I don't know, like that. If I saw somebody made a ROM hack where they made Light Newt, because I look at it this way, that, you know, obviously I'm not trying to make like a game that would be released by Game Freak. So like obviously my game is a quote-unquote one-off. So I would like to make the one-off feel different from the main game, and, you know, also actually add a lot of things that are different. And then, you know, just straight up go balls to the wall. And also the fact that it's not going to be it's not going to be played competitively. Like, it's strictly a single player experience, because you know, people usually only play ROM hacks, you know, the single player campaign, and don't really do much else other than that. And then so you have a lot more playing room, because you don't have to think about, oh, would this be broken and competitive? You just have to think, like, would this be broken in game? And since, you know, most things, you're pretty much, like, I don't know, 80% of the Pokedex in vanilla games you are able to use in game, as long as you don't play, I don't know, with heavy restrictions, or do like Nuzlocke runs or stuff like that. Like, there's only a few select Pokemon that are like basically unusable. Like, for example, Ledian, which, you know, again, it's not impossible to play through the game with a Ledian. Like, it can be done, but you're gonna have a pretty shit time with it. Because, like, it has, like, its highest attacking stat is 55, which is low even for a first stage Pokemon, and it's fully evolved. Like, oh, that is just terrible. And in a lot of the games, its move pool is just not even, like, the thing that a lot of the, well, using the term shitmons, a lot of these bad Pokemon, they usually have pretty good moveset, like, movesets. Well, they come in two categories, pretty much. Like, you have the Pokemon that have terrible movesets, and that's what puts them behind. I don't know, I can't really think of ones that are specifically in that category. Because, like, both, for example, Smeargle and Unknown, you know, have pretty terrible move pools, but they also have pretty bad stats, so, you know, they fit into both categories. But then you have the category of you know, shitmons that, it's pretty much just the stats, or maybe an ability or something that holds them back. Like, take, for example, Spinda. If you didn't look at its space stats at all, it would look like a great Pokemon, because it has, like, its move pool is so expansive, it learns so much. Well, it doesn't learn Superpower, which would be very freaking helpful, because, you know, it is one of the few Pokemon that has the Contrarian, well, Contrary? Yeah, the Contrary ability, which makes it so that, every stat buff it would get is a stat lowering, and vice versa. So, well, for example, if you have ever seen a now I can only think of the Japanese name, the Jiroda. Snivy. Superior. If you've ever seen a Superior used competitively, it usually will have Leaf Storm. And because of Contrary, instead of losing 2 special attack by using Leaf Storm, it will actually gain +2 special attack. So it's basically like not only like a 140 power stab move, but it's also a nasty plot on top of that. And Spinda did actually get superpower through an event, which, you know, is a 120 power move, but it lowers your attack and defense 1 stage. But with Contrary, it would actually increase its attack and defense by 1 stage, making it like a free bulk up, which, you know, wouldn't have exactly have saved it, because it still has like terrible space stats just all around. But it would have been like fun, like if you ever did like a Spinda run, having the superpower would be so cool to be able to, you know, to be able to use that. But nope, it is locked behind Dream World, which, you know, as many of you might already know, Dream World doesn't exactly exist anymore. So if you didn't pick up a Spinda that had superpower in the Dream World, you can now no longer get a Spinda with superpower, which is so stupid. Because, like, that would have been so cool to be able to use, you know, a Spinda with Contrary and superpower. Like, even if it was like a breeding move, meaning that it would only be used if you were, you know, a crazy person that breeds for Pokemon to use in challenge runs, it still would have been nice to just, you know, it would take them no effort to just, you know, tick that box that, oh, Spinda gets superpower through breeding. Like, come on, Game Freak. Give that poor panda a bone, will you? It deserves better. And now I completely got off my train of thought of what I was talking about. I suppose I was talking about shit mods, which, you know, I've actually started to really like that idea of using really bad Pokemon in runs. Oh. Let's take a chance. Okay. Like, for example, using like a Spinda in like a run or something, or actually, I'm actually doing a Nuzlocke of Pokemon X at the moment, and I've been using a Farfetch'd, actually, the Farfetch'd that you're able to get at the beginning of the game by there's an in-game trade where you can trade a Bunnelby to gain a Farfetch'd. And I actually did that trade because, well, I got a Bunnelby at the beginning of the Nuzlocke, and not only did it, because Diggersby, if you don't have access to Huge Power, which is its hidden ability, so you're not able to get it in-game, so if you don't have access to its hidden ability, it is terrible, it's useless, garbage, like, worse than Spinda. Okay, not actually worse than Spinda, but, you know, it is in that range of terrible, pretty much. It is a very good HM slave, I will give it that. It's a very good HM slave, actually. But that's about it. So I decided that, you know, I don't really use too many HM slaves in X and Y specifically, so since I'm never going to use this thing, because the thing is that Bunnelby has a 50% chance of having pickup, which, you know, would have been pretty good, because pickup is always useful to have, you know, early, at least early game, when you don't have like more than 3 or 4 Pokemon on your team anyway, so it's good to have stuff that can just pick up items for free. But it didn't even have that, so it's like, okay, there's really no reason for me to have this, so I just traded it for the Farfetch'd, thinking that, you know, okay, well, at least now I never have to capture a Farfetch'd. LOL. But then I also added like an additional rule that I was not allowed to use Pokemon Ami for any Pokemon that is, you know, quote-unquote good. The way I just used. I used the arbitrary line of if it is NU, aka never used, or better on Smogod, then it's too good to have Pokemon Ami added to it. So I just used that as a cutoff point, and you know, Farfetch'd, obviously it is in PU, which is the one tier that is below NU. So it gave it, you know, Pokemon Ami, it gave it boosted experience, so it gained, because it's traded and has the Pokemon Ami boost. Like, my entire team is like level 25, but my Farfetch'd is like 35, simply because, you know, it gains so much experience so quickly. But then I also used Thief to give it the stick, because it doesn't actually come with the stick in the trade, so I actually had to steal one from a wild Farfetch, which surprisingly didn't take too long of a time. And with the stick, it has a +2 critical hit, which means that every other attack, like literally it has a 50% critical hit ratio, and that doesn't even take into account boosted critical hit moves, like for example Slash, for example. If the Farfetch'd is holding a stick and uses Slash, that is a guaranteed critical hit. And like, Farfetch'd doesn't have the best attack in the world, but a critical hit is a critical hit, and I mean, that has 50% more damage. And Slash, you know, it is same type attack bonus on top of that. It actually isn't the worst thing in the world. Like, Farfetch is, it's actually been my MVP throughout most of the run. Which, I mean, I'm sure when I get to like the 4th and 5th badge, it's gonna start to wane a little bit. But I'm sure it's still gonna be like okay. I mean, that is actually the reason why Farfetch was like okay in game in the first generation, was because it gained so much more experience, because it was a traded Pokemon. Well, in Red and Blue at the very least, because you couldn't get wild Farfetch in Red and Blue, so the only one available was, you know, the one you got that was called, I believe it's Dux. Because I think the one in Generation 3 was the one that was called Shiding. Actually, let me... future me, look that up. Which one is called Dux and which one is called Shiding? Because I believe there is Farfetches that are called both of those things in different games. The one that in X and Y actually is called Quacklin. I think Quackling? Something like that. Let me pop on my screen what it's called. And when I first saw it, I was like... well, I wasn't confused, but it was like, oh my god, that is such a me nickname. Like, that could have easily been something that I could have called the Farfetch'd. So I'm very appreciative of that. So here we have Jupiter, which is another battle that I've lost Pokemon to. I guess I just have like in the back of my head, I have like a memory, like vague memory, like, oh, I've lost a Pokemon here. Or, well, I've lost Pokemon, you know, in plural here. So I kind of like have like a vague map in my head, or battle said, you know, oh, I need to be careful in this battle because it's very dangerous, or was at least dangerous enough for me to have lost something here. I do believe that the abilities of the opposing Pokemon are randomized. I know for a fact that in Generation 3, the opponent only uses the the first available ability. But I don't think that is the case here, but it still seems like most of them only use, like I don't think we've encountered a Bronzor that didn't have Levitate. Because I have actually checked a lot of them. Well, just in this run, but also in previous runs. And I can't actually remember if I've ever hit a Bronzor with Earthquake that wasn't a wild one. But I mean, statistically, I feel like there are gonna be some, because I seem to believe that there are some Pokemon in the entire game, in general, that has the second ability as their ability. But I could also be wrong. Let's just see how this goes. It's actually surprising that he has a female Toxicroak, because usually the Pokemon of the trainers are the same gender as the trainer themselves. So it's surprising to see that he actually has a female Toxicroak. And I do believe that's Saturn. No, yeah, this is Saturn. Let me just wait a quick second and check here and see that it actually is. I kind of get confused who is Saturn. Okay, yeah, this is Saturn. Who is Saturn, who is Jupiter? I think it's especially confusing seeing as Jupiter, I think, is Zeus in Greek mythology. Well, the Roman equivalent of Zeus in Roman mythology, yeah. So it's, you know, a little confusing that Jupiter, Jesus, that Jupiter would be female. I think that's actually something they changed in some localizations, that they changed Jupiter's names because it is so, you know, connected to the Roman god that, you know, people will be weirded out, like, why does she have, like, a male name? Because Jupiter is just a male name to some people. Like, imagine if, you know, she was just named, like, Frank, or, you know, just something that is just a very, like, a male name. By the way, there is a hidden item that we can only access through Surf in our hometown. Not this one, but actually, let me just show you. There's no grass here anyway, so it doesn't really take much to show. For some inexplicable, crazy reason, there's an odd keystone here. Why the hell is there a keystone there? Like, that makes absolutely no sense. Well, to me at the very least. Like, what the fuck? I'm seeing that we're kind of coming up on time. Well, we've kind of hit the time limit of, what, 10 minutes ago. And I think I might actually cut off here. So, I'm gonna be seeing you guys in the next time. Goodbye.